what level of work is being done to advance the financial sector here in the Virgin Islands? How can industry personnel educate the public, attract clients, and operate in this very competitive industry? I am Sean Rose. Welcome to the Big Story. To answer these and other questions, I have experts from the sector. I have Alicia Green from the BVI Finance. She's marketing manager. And I have Mr. Philip Graham from Harneys. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Great. Alicia, let's start with you. From the industry perspective, from the BVI Finance perspective, give us an overview of the financial services sector in a nutshell.
Well, pretty much that's a question we get a lot when we go out and do our marketing and promotional initiatives, especially when we engage locally. And to make it very simple, financial services basically means companies that set up structures or engage in services to manage wealth.
It's interesting that it's so simple, yet many people tend to harbor different views of what that really entails.
Well, we can break down the services because it would refer to things like banking, investments, insurance, stock exchange services, brokerage services, accounting, audits, company management, and simply wealth planning.
And why would entrepreneurs, business people across the world choose BVI?
Well, one of our, actually our flagship product, that being the BVI Business Company, has actually set certain precedents where it's very flexible for persons to utilize that particular company to engage in capital flow investments worldwide.
And Philip, if I may come to you for a bit, you're in the industry. Mm-hmm. What is it like operating in this particular sector? Is it challenging?
It's very challenging. I mean, it's an extremely competitive industry that we're in. There are a vast amount of countries all around the world that want to do exactly the same and want to challenge the BVI for, frankly, its number one status. It has incorporated more offshore vehicles than any other. And when you're at the top, as everyone knows, everyone else wants to shoot at you. So we're in an enormously competitive environment, but it's something we believe that together with BVI Finance and everyone else, we can still win.
All right, great. Let me come to you again, Alicia, because I would like you to tell me, well, we know financial services brings in pretty much 60 cents out of every dollar for the economy. So to ask you how important it is to the BVI economy, you will obviously point to that. But how does it help locals?
Well, it is more than just saying the percentage that it brings in to help the government to maintain the BVI as a territory. We see a lot of the infrastructural projects going on. It helps to pay for things like that. And if I can speak directly to how it affects the locals, real estate.
Yes.
Okay, renting of the nice, fabulous homes that we, built in the territory. It also helps with our tourism to some degree. Persons want to go out to restaurants to eat. They want to go stay at a nice hotel. Schools, enhancing the schools so that the students can be comfortable, and our education system can also be one that would help them to develop properly. The funds actually go to help those types of things.
And in terms of local involvement in the sector, I've heard a call for more locals to get involved, to become more aware. Are you satisfied that we're moving in the right direction where this is concerned?
I definitely think we're moving in the right direction. I'm actually excited about the direction that we're moving in, because over the last 2 years, my personal discovery has been one where I've recognized that there are quite a substantial number of locals already playing a role within the industry directly.
You know, from a news perspective, I've noticed that women dominate the financial services sector, and I'm not gender biased, but what's happening there? Why aren't we seeing more men? Maybe Philip, you can help me out with this one.
That's an interesting question. It's much the same in the UK. In sort of the legal side, I think it's around 60% of lawyers in the UK are female as well. So it's much the same. Why that's the case, that's tough to know. I mean, we're very proud at Harneys. We have a training scheme that we actively bring in BVI Islanders because we really want to bring on them and make sure they understand the value of the industry and how much that we can all grow together and learn together and actually promote the BVI as well as we can. And I'd have to say off the top of my head that the vast majority of people that we've had have been female on that training scheme, so you're probably absolutely right.
You know,
Yes.
I beg to differ a little bit with that, because my first experience when I actually came into the industry, I went to a conference and I was looking for the women. Because everywhere you turn, there were these black suits. There were no women. If it had 5 or 6, there were a lot. So I was actually taken aback and saying, you know, I'm really operating in a male environment. And therefore, I began the campaign to get more women involved. So it's nice to hear that Harney's have majority women participating in your training program.
Yes. And that's good in terms of the empowerment of women. I believe when we empower women, we empower societies. Yes. But in terms of your own, from your own point of view, your own observations, how have you seen the industry touch lives? Individuals, you've seen their lifestyles transformed over time.
I think there's a number of really interesting initiatives. I mean, the private sector really do want to give back, really does welcome the opportunity to help the local community. So there are a variety of initiatives that the private sector will do, including litter collection, including Harney's does a lot with education. So we sponsor a variety of reading clubs. We sponsor a variety of opportunities for students to be able to come in and sit with us for a day and understand what we do on a day-to-day life, and hopefully encourage them that they want to do that at some point. So I think there's an absolute recognition that it's so important to engage the community with this, and it's interesting. You're probably aware that McKinsey came in last year and under the government's advisory, and one of their fundamental 10 aspects, they said, is engaging the community.
Yes, in that report.
Exactly
Yes,
right.
yes.
Exactly right. And we're fundamentally of the opinion that it's absolutely vital for the good of the BVI that we do so.
Great. And from your perspective, Alicia, marketing manager at BVI Finance, are you seeing this this involvement of the community transforming into something new in terms of the perspective of financial services?
Most definitely. As I mentioned before, I think we're at an exciting point now where we have quite a few initiatives that we're going to be launching next year. You'll hear a little bit more about that later.
Okay.
That definitely is focused on engaging the population and making sure that we sort of secure everyone's comfort level with what exactly financial services is and how we should operate, creating that business-friendly environment that we tout when we go overseas.
Great. I love that inclusive approach. How do we look globally? How do we stack up against those big guns who are shooting at us, as Philip said earlier on?
Well, from my perspective, I would definitely say that the BVI has a lot of good stories to tell. When the international bodies change the requirements or change the regulatory levels that we're supposed to be at, we definitely meet, or in most cases, exceed them. So we're in a good position regulatory-wise. We do have good products. It's just a matter of us getting the right message out there so that persons can be attracted to the products and utilize BVI more so than some of the other competitors. And maybe Phil may have a different perspective.
Yeah, and this is a concern for us too, because when we hear of, as I put it, shifting the goalpost in the middle of the game at times, I wonder how this affects the industry.
Very, very heavily. We all try to focus on the rules and where the goalposts are, exactly as you say, and suddenly when that changes in the middle of the game, you have to be on your toes, you have to be pragmatic, you have to accept that there are a lot of wider influences out there. And whilst we've got to toe the line and make sure that we're doing everything that is required of us from an international perspective, we've also got to protect our industry. And that's the very tough role that the government has here, and the FSC has here, and BVI Finance has here, and we have in the private sector. But it's something that we're all working together. I think that's what's really exciting for me at the moment, is that all of the interested parties are aligned. Everyone is working in conjunction with each other to promote the industry as well as we can. And I think together we can succeed.
Great.
No, I was just going to say that is definitely an advantage to the BVI financial services industry, the private-public partnership that we share. And we always manage to strike the right balance in between when that goalpost is shifted.
Now, financial services in the schools, very innovative from my point of view. How is that going?
Financial services in the schools, I think the program is right on stream. I don't have a lot of details on that because there's the FSIU, which is actually a new body that just came on board to spearhead those types of initiatives. Yes. So in terms of where they're at right now, we may have to relay on some more details from that unit. But I know it's back on stream with the high schools.
The interesting part for me, I don't know if you attended the BVI Forward event at the college and was listening to the young student who spoke about his insights into the community. And he was incredible. He absolutely understood the challenges that the industry had. He was absolutely focused on how we could change them. And I think a lot of people sat in the audience and listened to him and almost wrote notes. It was incredible. I think that is a real example of how well actually the students are coming along. And he was tremendous credit to him and his thought process. And I think he deserved all the sort of accolades that he's received.
That's wonderful. Very informative. I'm getting from you that financial services, we need to embrace it. There's nothing to fear. It's not an international activity and we ought to stay on the sidelines. We need to get involved because this is a major industry for the BVI.
Correct.
Okay, great. We're going to move to a break, and when we get back, we're going to discuss some other aspects of the sector, in particular the various services. I want to hear more about the different services offered and get that better understanding of how those products match up with our international competitors.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. The big story continues in just a moment. Welcome back to the big story. We are looking at the financial services sector. We are demystifying the myths, removing all doubts about this wonderful sector. It's very simple if you've looked at the first segment, and now we're going to look at the various corporate services, the products offered by BVI Finance. And we have with us two professionals from the private sector. We have Marianne Rajik from Walkers and Andrew Thorpe from Harneys.
Hi, Sean.
Great having you. Welcome to the big story.
Thank you.
Marianne, let's start with you. And it's good to see we have some gender balance as well as we had in the first segment. Tell us about the various services. Give us an idea of what is offered at your particular establishment in terms of what you sell to your customers.
There are a number of international and local firms here in the BVI, and they all pretty much provide the wide range of products that the BVI has to offer. As mentioned by Alicia earlier, our flagship product is the business company. BVI has been known for the flexible business company regime since 1986 with the introduction of International Business Companies Act. And more recently, since 2007, with the extremely flexible regime under the Business Companies Act, which has, as mentioned before, become a bit of a model and a bit of an envy for a lot of other jurisdictions, leading to corporate reform in some of the other competitors' legislation to comply a little bit more with the flexibility of our Act. So business companies are used quite often as holding companies, but sometimes as trading companies at the parent level. And what that means is that a lot of the time when you were trying to bring the business together from Eastern Europe, Asia, the States and other parts of the world, rather than going through their own jurisdictions, they will actually go to the BVI and the actual trading or the sale happens at the BVI level because it's a neutral jurisdiction for all of those countries and basically brings the business together.
I get the impression BVI is strategically located, and that's one of the pluses for the industry.
It's strategically located. It's English is the official language. US dollar is our official currency. There's no exchange controls, so it makes it a very easy choice. And we're an English jurisdiction with English laws, appeal to the Privy Council, which makes us a very easy choice for that sort of thing. So things can go wrong, and they do go wrong. And this is where my litigation colleagues would.
Yes, well, it's a very important point to bring out because the success of the BVI vehicle, whether it be an investment fund, a trust or a company, needs the confidence of the investors and the end users just to make sure that if things go wrong, and we all hope they don't, they have the sophistication of a complex and well-organised court to hear these disputes. And that's something the BVI has been able to provide over the last 20 or 30 years, and especially over the last 6 or 7 years with the introduction of the actual the commercial division,
Yes.
a court specifically designed to deal with offshore structures and the disputes which have arisen.
Is it useful? Have you recognized that? If
The
it's-
court is an incredible selling point for the BVI. It has been hugely successful over the last number of years. The number of litigators on Ireland has probably quadrupled, I'd say. Many people say that's not a good thing, but, but I think it
It's
is.
the nature of the industry, yes?
That's right, and of course, with the onset of the global financial crisis,
Yes.
thankfully a few years back now, the BVI was really stress tested because with so many incorporated companies here, over 500,000,
Right.
inevitably some would be in financial trouble, would need restructuring, would become insolvent. And again, the BVI court was able to step in and deal with a lot of those problems. And the BVI was really in the world's media spotlight for quite a while. We had funds connected with some of the larger scandals, Lehman related products, all needed a very sophisticated and complex court structure to deal with it, and also the local knowledge of the lawyers as well to implement those disputes.
I take it that you've been involved in this sector for a number of years. I'm not trying to guess your age, but tell me, how have you seen the industry change over the years?
Shall I go with that?
You go first.
I have been here for over 8.5 years, and when I first moved to the BVI was trying to. It was pretty much at Cayman's heels on the funds products that we had in the BVI.
That's the Cayman Islands you're referring to.
That's right.
Yes.
So private funds, professional funds, we were really trying to hone in and develop our product and market it better. And we were doing actually quite well. I think we had over 3,000 funds, professional and private funds that were registered with the Financial Services Commission. But what we have seen through the years with the challenges and the stress testing of the international crisis, we have seen some of the funds that were not as robust as some of the others go into the stress fund situation. And what we have seen surviving is a really good, solid, large product. But also BVI has kept up with the demand of its new emerging markets and offered new products that now also provide an alternative for jurisdictions and for clients that are still at that lower cap level. So we have introduced the approved and incubator funds, which really do focus on the low cap market and smaller startup managers. And we have the approved manager, which has been extremely successful, and it's really not targeted at the large institutional funds, which we do have quite a few of, still legacy funds, and we're still setting up some very large funds. But we've really opened up the market to the smaller players with a view that we will grow with them.
Great. And as I listened to you, I said, wait a minute. Financial services is really not different from the consumer industry in terms of the wholesaling, the retailing, and so forth. And in some cases, some products not being competitive on the international or regional scene anymore, and then they are pushed aside. The branding, the effectiveness of the marketing campaigns, and so forth determine who stays afloat.
That's right to a certain extent. We're in a very competitive market, as Marianne mentioned, and it's very important that the BVI stay on top of that. And perhaps one of the biggest changes I've seen, I've been here for over 11 years now, is the education and the sophistication of the BVI Islanders and the people entering the industry. And they all come with stellar academics, and you can see the perception has changed in that time as to the way they deal with foreign clients, banks, and a host of other introducers and clients that the BVI sees. So that's been the marked change for me.
And what has been the response to the products offered by the BVI from the international community? Apart from, of course, the shifting of the goalpost and all these constant changes to the regulations and so on.
Well, our business companies remains the top product in its market and is still incredibly popular despite some fairly fierce competition. What we've seen recently, though, is a launch, as Marianne says, of the incubator funds, and so those are relatively new and quite untested yet, but are proving very popular.
There are a number of things that I would love to discuss, but time doesn't permit in terms of going into them in detail to get a good appreciation of what they entail. But nevertheless, I often wonder, is it BVI against the international community in this sector?
It's not how I would like to see it.
Okay.
I think I don't think it's the BVI against the competition or the BVI against the international community. I think it really is BVI with its really great, solid, proven, tested products, that has a lot to offer to the international community, and we will never change that. The quality is never going to be compromised. I think what we have done over the last probably 5 or 6 years, really, after Madoff, is where things started probably being tightened a little bit more, is what we've looked to adapt and perhaps provide some new products that will do exactly what you've said, accommodate a new market or the shift in a market. Our market has expanded, so we are providing the new products to that, but it doesn't change that the BVI has and has always had a really good quality product, and we're not going up against the rest of the international business community. We are there to service them, and BVI has a reputation for doing just that.
And diversification is setting in that it's asking of you to offer different services.
That's right.
What are some of those new options you have to put out there from the financial services point of view?
Well, the especially exciting ones are the ones I mentioned earlier, the approved manager funds and incubator funds. And the idea behind those, and Marianne is a funds lawyer, so she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is to catch hedge fund managers and investment managers at an early stage in their careers and watch them blossom and grow with the BVI as a jurisdiction. And as I mentioned earlier, it's been very successful so far.
And in terms of the industry overall, outside of BVI and what you're doing here, is it becoming more challenging for financial services globally?
Yes, globally, financial services are under a lot of strain. The BVI isn't alone with other offshore jurisdictions with a perception of it being offshore and therefore a place where people will put their companies and their assets for tax minimisation, for example. And the challenge we have on a daily basis is educating not just the BVI in the UK, but the rest of the world. So, we're not there for that reason. We're an essential part of the world's financial plumbing. Without the BVIs of this world, you can't easily funnel money into Africa and emerging markets, for example. That's a classic way that BVI companies are utilised. And so we play an intrinsic role in world finance, and making everyone understand that, just here and abroad, is very important to me.
Great. Now, in terms of opportunities, the folks who are listening, they're getting a better understanding of the industry, and they're saying, well, you know what, I need to get involved. How can I shape my academic training, chart my career in this direction?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because one of the initiatives from the McKinsey report is the capability development, and I'm on that committee. Okay. A lot of work has been put into, and a lot of work, still a lot more work is going to be put into the streamlining of the financial services through the high school, if not even earlier. I think the introduction will be initially at the later stages of the education and then through to the college, and just giving more opportunities, giving actually better information about the opportunities in the market in the BVI. As Andy mentioned already, there are some really good quality lawyers, paralegals, trainees who are coming through the industry. I'll be happy to say that we currently have a male trainee, and he's doing splendidly well. And I really think it's just getting the message out there that the financial services are here, getting the industry to actually assist with the local capability development, which I think private sector is very much on board with.
And Marianne has given me permission to call you Andy. Andy, is this a view that you share as well in terms of how you see the opportunities,
yes,
improving and increasing?
Very much so. And as the BVI-based firms and other international firms have come in, they have offices around the globe. And what we've been very intent on doing is moving BVI-anders and young professionals to our different offices so that they can actually operate in the markets in Asia and in London, for example. And that gets them a far better feel for exactly what we do and why. And I see that becoming an increasing part of the training and opportunities for BVI-anders generally.
In terms of the ancillary services, the linkage industries, earlier on, Lisa Green talked about the real estate and so forth. What other opportunities are there for businesses to provide, or entrepreneurs to provide services?
Well, again, I'll address that. But as all our businesses hopefully will thrive and prosper and look forward, then ancillary services, marketing, publications, media, for example, all of these factors come into play, and they're all opportunities for those on the island to be involved with. Great.
Now, on a lighter note, the BVI is a great place to be, and I'm sure you're able to attract the talent that you need to keep the industry at the level that it is, to support the local human resources, of course. Is this an incentive, you think, for people when they hear that they can come to the BVI to work, to ply the trade?
I think so. I think, we were actually, quite honestly, I was set to go to Cayman until we came to the BVI for a holiday just before I signed my contract, and I had changed my mind. It is a beautiful place. It's not for everyone. You have to be a bit of a pioneer in some respects, but it's a beautiful place to live, and I think it's a definite plus. The sailing is a huge plus, and we've had at least a couple of lawyers over the last few years that have come through Walkers who were attracted by the sailing in a BVI and didn't even look at any other jurisdiction. So all of those things combined make a BVI a really beautiful place to live, and I think when we're marketing a broader product, I think it's always important to actually set it in a context of life in a BVI.
Yeah, still a virgin territory, you would say, Andrew?
Yes, very much so, but a sophisticated virgin.
Yes. Well, it's been a very enlightening conversation. Thank you so much, Marianne. Thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to break, and when we return, we'll hear some more about the future for BVI Finance. We're going to get into the insights and the ideas of the professionals in that particular field. And let's hear some more from them. You're watching The Big Story. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Big Story. I'm Sean Rose, and we've switched teams this time again. We have back with us Alicia Green, Marketing Manager at BVI Finance, and out from Harneys, Mr. Philip Graham, my good friend Philip. Now, the way forward for BVI Finance, the financial services sector in the BVI, what are you seeing going forward?
I think we're moving in the right direction. I see a lot of positive things happening. If I can just give a sneak preview over this past year, since we've had the McKinsey study, we've been making a lot of strategic changes to how we do things from a BVI Finance perspective. We have been heavily engaging with the private sector so that they can advise us on some of the things that we need to do and help us with those initiatives. And one of them was reviving our Team BVI group. And that initiative is actually taking a slightly different spin, where we are going to be launching Team BVI groups in different geographic locations. So we've had the Team BVI group here this year helping us with a lot of things. A couple of weeks ago, we launched our Team BVI Latin America, because Latin America is one of our target markets that we're moving into with some of our products and services that you heard about today.
Stick a pin. Is this similar to the move into Asia, or is it on the same scale?
It is basically having a private sector group, a body that is going to be helping us to market, promote the BVI products and services in their region, and also advise us on barriers to enter certain markets, help us to bridge the gap, build relationships with either government agencies, with other regulators, with other big firms, so that we can introduce the BVI and encourage other people to use the territory for financial services.
And this, of course, is geared at bringing more
more business,
yes,
bringing more clients, bringing more people to work with the BVI.
It's a really interesting question you asked, though, because I think the two different regions are very different,
yes,
and in terms of their relationship with the BVI. And Hong Kong and Asia in general has always had such a strong relationship with the BVI that what we need to do there is slightly different to South America and the LATAM region, where we're just beginning to, there's a nice little ball rolling, and they're beginning to understand how well we can do it. But we now need, exactly as you say, we now need the mouthpiece in that region to be telling everyone, this is what the BVI can do, this is what we can deliver. And I think it's a fantastic initiative that we're launching, and I'm certainly all for it.
So I see the diversification goes beyond the product offerings. It's also the way you market and where you market, BVI Finance.
Exactly. And once again, once the private sector professionals tell us this is what BVI needs to be doing, these are some of the products that we need to launch in this particular region, in that particular region, then we try to listen and then improve on what we already have, and then we go out and market those particular services.
What about activities on the horizon? Anything out there that you are planning?
Activities on the horizon, yes. We talked earlier about engaging the population.
Yes.
So one of the things that BVI Finance is currently doing is local forums. And these forums are open to anyone, actually. Even though we would send our marketing material to the industry as a whole, they are definitely open to anyone in the community so that they can come and understand what the products are, what are some of the issues we're up against, what are some of the initiatives that we have on the table. And I can tell you the Meet the Regulator Forum is one that is done by the Financial Services Commission, and they're actually having that event on the 19th of this month. But in terms of BVI Finance local forum, we're having one on the 17th of November at Treasure Isle. It's going to really target our insurance division. And we feel that sector has been one over the last few years that people didn't really understand. So what we're intending to do at that event is break it down in very simple terms so people can understand what captive insurance is, what are the insurance services that are there, the opportunities that are going to be on the horizon in the next year or two,
yes,
and some of the regulatory and legislative developments that have now taken place to help us to rebuild that sector. And we want more people to participate, so that's definitely open to everyone to come and have a basic understanding of what it is.
So the week of the 17th is a week that we need to glue our eyes on BVI Finance and track you down, find you wherever you are, and get more information
Get
about
more
what's happening.
knowledge, yes.
You mentioned something a while ago, and I kept hinting at it and asking in previous sessions here on this big story, the opportunities. Do I have to be a lawyer to get into this sector? Isn't there an entry level opportunity for me, for that young student who's leaving secondary school or the college?
You don't have to be a lawyer to get into the industry. And that is a question that we received a lot in the past when we interacted with the high school. When we asked them, what would you like to be when you leave school? Everybody wanted to be a lawyer. There were very few that would tell you, okay, I want to be an accountant, or I'd like to be a company secretary. Or, for example, I remember when we engaged with the Insolvent or the RISA Association, a lot of the students received an aha moment because they didn't realize that right out of school, you can go and start engaging in that particular sector once you're good with maths. You see? And so when we engaged with them directly, that actually sparked a little bit of interest. And then we started talking about, well, you can always go in as a company secretary, learn how to do probate, learn how to fill out the different company management documents, and that's how you kind of move your way up, to being perhaps that legal advisor or that company manager or that trust manager, any one of those, a captive manager.
On-the-job training, this really works.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And I positively encourage it. I mean, it's interesting. Harney's is over 150 people in our office. Less than half of that are actually lawyers. So even in law firms themselves, they're not full of lawyers, which everyone's grateful for, probably. There are an awful lot of people providing an awful lot of other services.
Yes.
There are obviously some fantastic secretaries. There is a great human resources department. There's our marketing arm. There's our IT arm. So whatever your skill set is, there is a place for you in the financial services industry. And I think that's a really important lesson to learn, is actually it is not just the lawyers going out there and doing whatever lawyers do. It is actually us all coming together as a team and together finding out what the skill sets are, what's your expertise, what are you good at, and let's make sure we harness it for the good of the jurisdiction.
Alicia, I heard you mentioning team earlier on. I just heard team again. Team BVI. What can you tell us about this particular initiative?
Team BVI, they're basically a group of professionals or practitioners in all the sectors, whether it's funds, trusts, insol, litigation, accountants, secretaries, compliance, from all the areas that we provide service, that we've pulled together to help us with our marketing initiatives, to also help be our writers, our spokespersons, our advisors. And we have a really large group in the BVI. We have about 8 to 10 persons in the LATAM region, and hopefully in the first quarter of 2016, we will officially launch our Team BVI UK. So we're currently on that quest right now to
Right.
find the right persons that would make a good team for us over there.
I know it's not calm waters that you're navigating in this financial services sector. Marketing in 2016 and beyond. What are you seeing? How does that look like? Is it going to be easy? Is it going to be expensive?
Well, seeing that I'm heavily involved in that particular area, what we try to do is put together a program that is very conservative, one, and two, we try to maximize and get as much value from what little we have to spend. For the past 3 or 4 years, one of the things that BVI Finance has been asked to do is try to cut back as much as we would want to put our foot forward more and do more. We have come up with some innovative ways to get our message out. We've launched our social media initiatives, so we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. So we always try to keep people abreast of what's happening using that medium. It doesn't cost much. We're already paying for the internet, so it's just a matter of getting persons to follow us on social media. Again, having Team BVI globally located, then we wouldn't have to worry about the expenditure to actually keep going to Asia all the time, always going to the UK all the time. If we have qualified and committed persons in those regions, those are the ones that we'd want to utilize on certain initiatives.
Yeah.
The next thing that we are looking to do next year, bringing back on stream, is our road shows. In the past, we've been very successful with engaging in road shows, again, in targeted regions throughout the world. And so we're planning to do a few of those next year to see if we can get some quick wins in geographic locations like Latin America, again in Asia, and then we're going to do one across the United States.
Philip, is it safe to say that Team BVI will help BVI Finance defend the BVI financial services sector?
Absolutely. It's
Yes.
it's as much, you're exactly right, it's as much offensive, it's as much marketing and trying to attract business as it is defensive, because we've been enormously successful so far. And so there is an awful lot of people globally who use the BVI, who trust the BVI, who will always use the BVI, as long as the BVI can provide for them what they've always provided before. And that's what we've got to defend. So now Team BVI needs to look in both directions. It is not just making sure that we bring in as many new clients as possible, but it's also making sure that we keep the ones we have.
And using some war themes in my head, I'm thinking that sometimes the greatest enemy is not necessarily the one outside, but the one within. What can we do locally to help defend the financial services sector, or not do in some cases?
If I can
Yes,
take
yes.
that one
please do.
first.
Yeah.
If you notice, our tagline for our reformed logo is your international business partner. And earlier I mentioned about the BVI community being in a position to offer that business-friendly service.
Yes.
I think it is important for us to kind of hone in on that and see how best, whatever role we play, we can always project ourselves as being a business-friendly environment.
Break this down for me. What does this mean at the ground level?
Let's talk about someone coming into the country on business.
Yes.
Okay, they need to have good service from the time they reach to the port of entry. And when I say good service, that doesn't mean giving them what they want just
right.
because they came in.
Right.
You can deal with them in a professional, friendly and precise manner and help them to have that good experience, so when they come through to the other side, they reach their transportation, whether it's a taxi or a specific transportation
Yes.
waiting for them. The experience from there should also be business friendly.
Yes.
They go to the supermarket, they come up to the cashier, it needs to be business friendly. I'm just breaking it
Yes,
down
yes,
very simple
yes.
as I see it.
That's right.
Because as a BVI lander, I too go through some of these experiences where I question and say, are we really being business friendly here? So supermarket, same way. You're going into a hotel, It's the same. You want to be friendly.
Yes.
In a
Don't take customer
professional
service for
business.
granted, yeah?
No, customer service is very important. And we've actually had some good reports on that to BVI Finance in the last couple of months. There was a business man coming in all the way from Korea, and he came in, he had a good experience, and he went back smiling. Now, someone like that, when he gets back to Korea, he's definitely going to be telling everyone about that good business-friendly experience he had when he came to the BVI.
Is this something you can relate to, Philip?
It is, especially as the chap from Korea was my client. So no, I mean, but that's absolutely right. And it was fascinating. He'd never been to the Caribbean before. He'd never been to the BVI before,
Yes.
and Alicia and the team did an absolutely fantastic job at making him feel so welcome. And he went back to what is a sort of an emerging funds market, but with full of positive recommendations about not only using the BVI from a service quality perspective, but actually go and visit. It's a beautiful place, full of beautiful people, and that's a fantastic message that we need to be careful of, because the flip side of that, the negative message, is equally damaging.
Yeah.
So if he'd have come over and actually been poor quality in the hotel he'd had, and he'd gone back and said, you know what, that isn't the place I want to go, and he told the rest of his community, that isn't the place you want to go, that's incredibly damaging. So this is far-reaching. This is everyone pulling their own weight and doing what they need to do.
So indirectly, we are all involved in this industry, whether we like it or not.
Everyone is
Absolutely
involved.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're asking of us to be much more cognizant of the fact that everything we do affects the industry. But this has been a very, as I said earlier, very informative session. So as we move into the week of November 17th with your informational activities, is it likely that we can see a very good Christmas thanks to BVI Finance? Maybe you may have some gifts to give, you may have some, I don't know, some stockings stuffed with gifts and so forth.
I'm not sure about gifts, but what I'd like to tell everyone to do is follow us closely on our social media outlets.
Yes.
There's definitely going to be information there that would empower them, would help them to feel proud to be a part of the BVI and to play a role in the financial services industry. Whatever role that is, it is important.
Philip, it's been a great discussion. Great having you. I trust we can see you here again. We can have more conversations about financial services. Alicia Green, it's great having you from BVI Finance. And of course, we had Marianne Rajik from Walkers and Andrew Thorpe from Harneys. And they have shared with us so much information in this very little time that I'm sure you too benefited from the discussions. Thank you so much for viewing this special edition of The Big Story. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm hoping too that in future discussions we can delve into some different aspects of the financial services sector that we couldn't do because of limited time in this particular edition. I am Sean Rose. Thank you so much for watching The Big Story.